What's up, Broncos country? Welcome back to the Broncos Podcast Network and YouTube for the latest episode of Broncos Now. Team reporter and host Sydney Jones here. And coming up on today's episode, interim head coach Jerry Rosburg, the coordinators, cornerback Pat Surtain, and guard Dalton Reisner all spoke to the media today. Plus, ESPN's NFL Nation Los Angeles Chargers reporter Lindsey Thiry joins the show to take a look at this matchup from the Chargers' perspective. All that and more coming up. With Sunday's game versus the Los Angeles Chargers out in Power Field at Mile High being the final game of the season for the Broncos, interim head coach Jerry Rosburg spoke today on how this team will look to finish strong.
The 5-12 thing, I don't think resonates with them at all. It certainly doesn't with me. I mean, they don't look backwards. It just doesn't work that way. You have to look forwards when you're in this business. There's so many things to play for, and I don't even want to begin to enumerate them. And they enjoy this game. They're pros. I see it every day. And the thing that's happened this year with our roster since I've been here is this: there constantly is a new energy brought by new players, guys that have new opportunities, that haven't ever had opportunities. And I think sometimes that is a feeling that others get, that this isn't guaranteed. So we better take advantage of every opportunities that we have to play this game.
Plus, the Broncos will look to avoid going winless in the AFC West on Sunday, but Rosburg says that's not his message to the team this week.
I recognize that past, and I talked about that last week a bit, about how we own that, we recognize that, and I think I said one other time that that's a mess that we made. And so our focus is on, we need to clean that up. We need to do this, but I try not to, perhaps I do at times, but I try not to send negative messages, so I'm not going to tell our guys to go out there and not lose so the streak is extended. And that's just doesn't resonate with me.
Offensive coordinator Justin Herbert also spoke to the media today and discussed being the play caller versus the Chiefs on Sunday and what worked well for him.
Well, I thought the communication was great. I thought that just getting in and out of the huddle and having a tempo to the offense, getting the ground game running. As far as performance and getting better, there's always things that you can get better at. It's not one specific. There's a couple areas that I critique myself in a few different situations. So just practicing throughout the week of practice, continuing to meet with our position coaches and Russell, just getting on the same page with that as well. But for the most part, I thought it went well.
And the team announced today that guard Dalton Reisner and cornerback Pat Surtain were named recipients of team awards presented by the Denver chapter of the Pro Football Writers of America. Reisner was presented the 16th annual Darren Williams Good Guy Award. Take a listen to what it meant to Dalton to win this award.
It's a huge honor for me to receive this award. I know that it's been a tough year for all of us here in Broncos country, but at the same time, there's things like this that sure do mean a lot. And thank you guys so much for your votes. It means a lot for me. I take this very seriously. Obviously, the game of football means a lot to me. I love being a Denver Bronco. I love being an offensive lineman and doing that type of work, but I also love being good to people. And I want you guys to know how much I appreciate you. I know as players and media, we won't always see eye to eye. We won't always see eye to eye on everything, but at the end of the day, we sure do appreciate what you guys do here at the Denver Broncos and appreciate the work that you guys do. We all take pride in our work. I know you guys work extremely hard. And at the same token, with Darren and his story and the type of player that he was for the Denver Broncos and the tragic event that happened with him, for me, I didn't get to know the guy, but I know that I watched the guy growing up. I watched every single Bronco game. And for me to hear about the type of man that he was amongst adversity really motivates me and reminds me of how important it is to be a great man, not only in times of comfort and convenience, but also in times of trial and tribulation. And that's something I've always tried to take pride in, is I'll put the onus on me every single time. I have no problem with taking the heat. I have no problem with admitting whenever I'm wrong or when I have a bad game or being the one to come talk whenever we might be 4-12.
Reisner is an impending free agent, so he went on to talk about his future with the Broncos.
When it comes to this business, I think that what everyone wants at some point as a player is to be valued, right? So if the Broncos value me and they want to keep me here and be a Denver Bronco, I can't wait. That's going to be one of the biggest things. But at the end of the day, it being a business, me entering this next area of my life, it's like, okay, where am I going to be valued at? Is it going to be the Broncos? Is it going to be somewhere else? And if it's the Broncos and the Broncos want to keep me here, I'll be so grateful to be a Denver Bronco, and I'd love to be able to do that. But it's kind of a hard question to answer, right? Because at this point, you just got to be excited to see what comes, and whatever it is, you got to be able to be excited for. And me and Whitney are ready for that. We're just excited to see what happens, and if that's the case here, then I can't wait, man. That'd be awesome.
And Surtain was recognized with the second annual Demarius Thomas Team MVP Award. He thanked his teammates and coaches for pushing him week in and week out.
Big honor, man. First off, I just like to thank, my teammates, my coaches, for pushing me every day to be the best player I could be. I mean, without them, who knows? But, it just goes to show the success I had this season, just leading into the season, my goals. This is one of the goals I want to have, so, it's an honor. Huge honor.
Defensive coordinator Ejiro Ivero spoke on just how deserving Pat is of this award.
A very consistent person, very consistent player. You get the same high-level effort, high-level focus, concentration every day from him. He's just a pleasure to coach. Good guy, great guy to talk to, great guy to hang out with. Obviously a talented player who does everything the right way. So it's been really fun.
Now let's take a look at today's injury report. A pretty lengthy one again today. The only changes from yesterday's report are outside linebacker Jonathan Kongbo. He did not participate in practice today. Cornerback Damari Mathis, guard and center Quinn Miners, defensive lineman Mike Purcell, and cornerback K1 Williams were upgraded to limited. And outside linebacker Baron Browning was a full participant. And I had a chance to catch up with ESPN's NFL Nation Los Angeles Chargers reporter Lindsey Thiry to take a look at this matchup from the Chargers' perspective. Take a listen. Lindsay, thanks so much for joining me today. Pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure being here.
Of course. How are you? How are things over there in Los Angeles?
All is good. It's week 18, and what's become a very long season, and just kind of finding that extra gear as the Chargers get ready to go into the playoffs.
Yeah, season's not over for you quite yet. How's the season really just been over there? Been exciting, probably.
Yeah, it's been exciting. It's been very up and down. This team, it's just been a roller coaster. They went into the season as a Super Bowl favorite, which kind of seemed crazy enough for an organization that has only been in the playoffs twice in the last, since 2013, last 10 years. And then all of a sudden they had a rash of injuries, and they went from Super Bowl favorite to how are they going to keep this thing together at all? And then here they go with 2 games remaining, clinch a playoff spot. So it's been a roller coaster. It's been a really hard team to define, but nevertheless, they're getting good at the right time, which is exciting for them.
Yeah, you mentioned it, getting good at the right time. I feel like they're really peaking right now, Lindsay. What have you kind of seen, I guess, maybe change about this team just in recent weeks?
It was really funny early on in the season in the locker room. You just didn't feel it. And when people say it, like it's a hard thing to define, but it didn't seem like a together team. It didn't seem like guys knew each other, that there was any kind of like chemistry. And then lo and behold, Khalil Mack starts having defensive dinners. Kyle Van Noy over the last several weeks has been hosting like player only defensive meeting. So it's really something about how they've gelled, how they've kind of come together starting kind of midway through the season and on. A lot of times that can be overlooked or maybe spoken too much about. But for this team, because of all the individual talent they have, that really seems to be kind of the final component that they needed to get to know each other, to realize they need to play hard for each other and go out there with just a better energy.
When you look at the season overall, what has kind of impressed you just about Justin Herbert's performance this year? I mean, in the recent weeks, he's looking like one of the best quarterbacks in the league, really.
Yeah, I think what's really been lost on Justin's season is that in week 2, he had fractured rib cartilage. End of the Chiefs game, he gets absolutely crunched, and his performance took a dip. And I think a lot of people were looking around saying, what's wrong with Justin Herbert? And it was really kind of easy. He had fractured rib cartilage. The playbook was really kind of condensed to compensate for that. The offense, not to mention, was without several key playmakers. Keenan Allen had a big hamstring issue. Mike Williams had a high ankle sprain. So Justin Herbert was not only hurt himself, but he was hurting because he didn't have his full arsenal of playmakers. But what has been impressive is how he navigated that, how he's come out the other side, and how he really has this team peaking at the right time. I mean, he has shown, some signs of just emotion on offense that we've really never seen from Justin, and excitement over some of the plays the last several weeks. And he's also shown a steadiness. A lot of his teammates just say he's so poised and he's so even keeled, and they're in a lot of 2-minute situations, a lot of must-win 2-minute situations. Right. And Justin's demonstrated the poise to handle that.
Well, looking at the Broncos and Chargers last meeting back in week 6, I know the Broncos defense held Austin Eckler to just 36 rushing yards. Justin Herbert didn't throw a touchdown pass. I think it broke a record for him that week. How do you think this Chargers offense is going to fare going up against, this Broncos defense this time around?
Yeah, I think that they are a very different group this time around. I think there's more emphasis that we saw this last week on trying to get the ball going in the run game with Austin Eckler. So I think that we will see them continue to try to do that. It's going to be really interesting because of when the game is being played. The Chargers might have already clinched that number 5 seed if the Ravens game earlier ends and the Ravens lose. So I think that it's going to be really interesting. Brandon Staley has said they're going in with the intention of winning this game, but and that they're planning, they're practicing as though everyone's going to play and they're going full steam ahead. But I do think that dependent on how they get started, what happens in that other game, I think it could really see what they decide to do against the Broncos. If it becomes like a tune-up game, if it becomes a rest game, I think that depends on some stuff. If all things considered, I think they're really going to try to run the football, get Austin a couple touchdowns so he can get 20 on the season again. And then I think they'll also try to kind of just tune up a few of the connections with Mike Williams and Keenan Allen.
Well, that'll do it for today's episode of Broncos Now. Broncos Country, thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you'll meet me right back here on the Broncos Podcast Network and YouTube tomorrow for a game preview. I will see you all then.